Welcome back to another episode of Questions with Matt and Mark. Mark, this week, I'm going to go first.
Okay.
So why don't we talk about, with the viewers, how social media in general has impacted investing? You want to try to tackle that?
Yeah.
I'm going to make you do it in like 60, 90 seconds.
Yeah, so in general, the flow of information is just so much quicker these days.
Yes.
A good example of this is everyone talks about when your taxi driver back in the day was talking about a certain investment or a certain stock. It was usually time to get out.
That was the top.
Right? Because everyone was getting involved.
When it was the water cooler talk.
Right, exactly. And people are trying to relate the same thing to social media, but information travels so quick that, these things can go on a lot longer than people think. Think cryptocurrencies or the hot stocks like GameStop and AMC.
Yes.
So I think these things can go a lot further than people think just because back in the day, the information travel was a lot slower. So I think it just gives consumers a lot more information at their fingertips that they can make quicker decisions essentially. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing because people know what's going on 24/7 with the market. So emotionally, they're going to want to act on something that they hear or see. So actually, in my opinion, it's kind of a negative for long-term investors, I would say.
I think that's a good point. And my 2 cents would be just because someone else is investing into something doesn't mean it's right for your portfolio.
Right.
And a lot of those, let's just say, desires to invest in the things that are moving, psychologically it's attractive, but does that really fit into your larger financial plan?
Right.
And I think that's the problem is we're in this instant gratification environment.
We are.
And it's dangerous.
Yeah, it is.
What do you got for me?
My question for you, there's been a lot of talk about the Federal Reserve digitizing the US dollar. So what does that mean? Is the US going to go to cryptocurrency or how does that work?
All right. So we talked about this in our recent podcast 100 of the Independent Advisors podcast, viewers. And what's being talked about right now with the Fed is really getting rid of paper currency. So the days of going to the gas station and paying for your drinks or your gas with actual $20 bill or $50 bill, that's going to go away, in my opinion, in the next decade. The Federal Reserve has started to study with all the regional reserve banks, so the Reserve Bank of Cleveland, Kansas City, etc., to explore how they're going to be able to implement this. Because ultimately, we have to make sure the whole U.S. population is able to transact digitally. And there are people that don't have smartphones, as an example.
Right.
So what I see happening, especially over the next several years, is a study how they can go and get away from a paper currency. It will not be a cryptocurrency. It'll be, in essence, the American dollar no longer transacting in paper. It'll all be digital.
Yeah, so they're not creating a new form of digital currency. They're just digitizing the US dollar.
Exactly. So think about you have your bank account at XYZ Bank and you can log online, see where that's at. You wouldn't be able to go to the bank and say, hey, I want to get $500 out. I want to get $100 out. In 10 years, in my opinion, the days of ATMs are gone.
Right, and there, for example, I would imagine there would be a platform of some sort that, for example, if you were out to dinner and wanted to tip your waiter or waitress, there'd be a platform or an app on your phone to do that rather than transacting in physical dollars.
That's correct. And again, it's going to take time to transition this way, but obviously the government's motivated to do this because the more they can see money in the financial system, the more they can make sure they're doing what? They're getting their tax, they're getting their revenue.
Right.
And so I see it's just a matter of time. Best way to say it, we're living on borrowed time in the days of paper currency.
Agreed.
Make sense?
Yeah.
All right, viewers, we'll be back next week with another episode of Questions with Matt and Mark, and we will see you then.